So I'll give you a quick chat about Louth Volunteer Centre. We are an independent charity ourselves. We are funded by the Department of Rural and Community Development to strengthen and support volunteering in County Louth. So our focus is very much County Louth, but we are part of a network of volunteer centres all across Ireland. So if you're registered with Louth Volunteer Centre, you can easily apply for roles in Meath or in Monaghan or in Dublin, or whatever is convenient to yourself. So we would have people who maybe live in Louth but work in Dublin, and they might apply for volunteer roles in Dublin. But right now, our focus, we promote volunteer roles in Louth, so we're very much focused on Louth. We are, as I said, a registered charity ourselves, and our mission is to help individuals to find meaningful opportunities to volunteer and to help organisations to involve volunteers in their work, to involve volunteers in their work. So key thing there is meaningful opportunities to volunteer. And there's all sorts of reasons why people come to volunteering, but we hope to have a wide variety of roles that you can choose from, and that something will come eventually that is right for you. And the other aspect there is not-for-profit. So we only promote roles from the not-for-profit sector, the community and voluntary sector. So if a person is a job seeker, then they can be confident that the roles that they see on our system, which is IVA, which I'll talk about in a moment, are roles that are acceptable to the Department of Enterprise and Social Protection, so DEASP. So you can volunteer if you're on a job seeker's payment, but you're only allowed to volunteer in a not-for-profit sector. So those roles that we have in our system, that they are suitable for that as well. As I said earlier, there are all sorts of reasons why people want to volunteer, and you are here, so you must be interested in volunteering at the least, but whatever reason you have is reason enough. So we try to, I suppose, support people for whatever reason. So whether it's you just want to fill a couple of hours of time that you have, or you want to gain skills and experience. So that's where I will talk in a minute about what we do in terms of our follow-up supports to volunteers, but it is helpful for you to let us know what you want to gain from volunteering, because then we can help you identify a role that would be a good fit for you. It is National Volunteering Week. Yay, celebrations! And there's two big themes from National Volunteering Week this year, and one of them is gratitude. So thank you to all of the people who not only, like this year in particular, we're calling it the Year of Volunteers, because volunteers really came to the fore in our communities, but just all the time. Like, we have volunteers who do things in our communities all the time, and we want them to look after themselves as well. So if anybody isn't aware, we've had a series of online wellbeing events all week. There is one on at the moment, so we're missing it to be here, but there's one actually on at 2 o'clock today as well, which is 5 ways. I'm going to mix them up. No, 2 o'clock today is a LinkedIn. Actually, if anybody's here who's interested in kind of developing their career through volunteering, LinkedIn are offering a free session at 2 o'clock today. If you go to our Facebook page, we put up the post each day, and the links are there for you to book into the session. So there's Pilates tomorrow, I think, Friday, I think, is mine. So there's something each day. But volunteering has been proven internationally to have a very positive effect on well-being for a wide variety of reasons. Whether it's feeling more connected to your community, whether it's gaining confidence, for all the reasons. And this is from the UK, but actually as we look to Ireland, we do a survey every year of volunteers. So after volunteering, people here in Louth have said that their contribution to the community, their sense that they were making a valuable contribution to the community increased. So the 87% said that, 81% said their confidence increased, and 77% said their in general well-being was improved as a result of volunteering. We're very conscious at the moment, we are all here in Louth, and there is a level of nervousness obviously with the COVID crisis at the moment, and so we have a variety of roles people can do from home as well as go out and about. But I would like to make the point that volunteers are very important for the well-being of our community as a whole, and the organisations that we work with, 4 of whom are here today, and we're so grateful for them for being here today, need the support of volunteers to be able to deliver the services that they provide, services that are actually essential for our community here in our local area. So not only are we talking about the general well-being of the individual volunteer, but also of our community as a whole. And I'm sure each group will speak about their own situation in terms of their need for volunteers, but I suppose what happened was, a lot of services stopped when the COVID crisis emerged. A lot of regular volunteers are no longer maybe able to volunteer because whether they have vulnerable underlying conditions or age or all different reasons, and that's absolutely fine. Volunteering is voluntary, so you choose to do it at a time that suits you. But that has meant that there can be a gap in some services, and some services need more volunteers, or people are less likely to volunteer at the moment. Some people are less likely to volunteer at the moment. So we're just, I suppose, given an opportunity to bring groups who are, have roles for people together with people who are interested in volunteering at the moment. And speaking about general well-being of our community, we're so excited by this. We received a letter this morning at 9:30 from Michael D. Higgins saying thank you to volunteers for what you do, not just now, but always. He speaks about the generous army of volunteers and the sense of human decency that lies at the heart of all they do, that they transform the lives of individuals, families and communities all across Ireland. So I suppose just to take a moment here myself to say thank you to all of you who are attending today and for your interest in making a difference in your communities. And that includes our organisation attendees as well, for the difference that you make as well. I'm going to go into the detail of us in terms of what we do. I mentioned a couple of times if you're registered with Louth Volunteer Centre. One of our roles as part of our contract with the government is that we manage IVOL, the National Volunteering Database, here at local level. So we manage the Louth aspect of IVOL. It is available for free to download from Google Play or the App Store. When you download it onto your phone, there's a map and you can see volunteer roles that are available locally and close to you. You can filter it down. It's also accessible through our website, which is volunteerlouth.ie. So the roles that we're talking about today are available on IVOL. If you wish to apply for a role through IVOL, you must be registered with us. So just to note that. In terms of being registered with us, we do not share your data with anybody, despite people getting an email from me from a COSAS email last night. That was not a sharing of data, that was an administrative error by me. But unless you apply for a volunteer role with an organisation, or unless you register interest in a particular volunteer role, in that case, we will share your data, your name, your phone number, your email address with that organisation so that they can contact you directly. I'm going to give you a few examples of the roles that are currently available on IVOL. And just to give you a flavour, these are not the ones, obviously each group is going to be highlighting other roles related to their organisation as well, but just to give you a flavour of what's out there. So as an example role here, Georgian District Support for Older People, and I suppose just to also tell the tale of the change. So befriending roles, so that is going to visit or connect with an older person who is isolated and on their own, and obviously is a particularly important role just at the moment. We put up this role on the 25th of August. Normally, this is a hugely popular role, generally. I just checked last night and 2 people applied for it between 25th of August and last night. So that'd be quite unusual. So I suppose what we're saying to you, we're obviously sharing these roles with yourselves in terms of volunteers, but maybe if you have friends, family members that you think that they might like that role or be interested, feel free to share in that sense as well. So this is on our IVOL database. I'm just going to quickly click through just to show you a couple of things on the database. On the system. So you check the volunteer role here, and you can see that that's the detail of the role up here, the commitment. So they're looking for an hour a week. Down here, a little bit of information on the organisation. Would be advising people to check the what's required screen there, because that's what they're actually looking for in terms of a volunteer. Maybe to filter yourself, saying, well, I don't, if you're 18 and you're looking at this role, it's not going to be suitable to you. Maybe don't express an interest on that basis. When they're looking for volunteers, what the commitment is, what the screening is. So some roles will have no screening whatsoever, and some roles like this one, where you may be building a close relationship with a vulnerable person, would have a higher level of screening. And they provide training and what you will get as a volunteer from it. So if you read through all that and you go, oh, that's definitely something I'd be really interested in doing, you click on the register interest button there. Now, if you're not already registered, so if you're not already signed in, it'll prompt you to sign in. My biggest tip for anybody who's already registered with us to say today is, when you're clicking on links in anything like our email or the links in the chat box that Karen is putting up, I would advise you to be already signed in. One of the glitches, unfortunately, with the system that we find a little bit challenging ourselves, and we're trying to get fixed at national level, is if you are in a role and you click register interest and you sign in, it actually takes you back to the home page, not to the role itself. So that can be a little bit frustrating. So we advise people to be signed in advance if possible. If you're not already registered, you will be prompted to register. you register your details, and unfortunately the same thing again brings you back to our homepage, so you have to go back to the role. But as I said, we'll be sending you an email with all of the links. You have the emails, the links in the chat, so when you register, maybe you'd like to just go back to the link and click on the role and then register your interest through it that way. Sorry, it did bring you to the screen there, did it, with the eyeball page, did it?
It did, yeah. Getting started.
That's okay. That's all right, grand,
yeah. Can see that one, yeah.
And are we back to the PowerPoint?
Not yet.
Okay.
We're just still on the getting started.
Grand. Sorry about this, everybody. Just these are the learnings from previous sessions that we should be back to the PowerPoint again.
Yeah, it's just coming up now. No, it's back just to draw the district support, the IVOL.
Oh yeah, but this is getting started.
Yeah, that's it.
Thanks. Sorry, everybody else, just to verify. So just some other examples of roles that are, sorry, it's just taking a moment. Yeah, so this is a role in RD, if anybody's in that area, but you don't have to be from RD to actually get involved in the role. This is if somebody has a multimedia background, it's actually going and filming matches on a GoPro, preparing them for sharing on the web. So it might be, if somebody's trying to gain experience in a media kind of sector, it could be a really interesting role. Or if you're passionate about watching football matches, soccer matches, that could be interesting to you as well. Another role here, we have Dignity for Patients, who support patients who have been subjected to abuse in the medical profession, and they're looking for people on their helpline. So that would be answering calls. That would be another role that would have very specific requirements in terms of the volunteer, in terms of the type of person. We have here Dundalk FM. This might be of interest to people where they're looking for community radio program presenters. They just recently did an induction session with volunteers on Zoom like this. So they kind of do regular kind of information sessions for volunteers, and from that point you can choose whether you'd like to progress into their training programs. They're absolutely excellent, their training programs, and it's a really, really great way into radio in terms of if that's an area of experience, or if you have a topic you're very interested in. A good friend of mine is one of their presenters, and she's very, very into 1920s, 1930s music, so she has a swing program that she shares on it. So that's another example of a role. This is an interesting role. We struggle at the moment for roles for younger people, because generally the type of roles for younger people, by that I mean under 18, they tend to be event-based roles. So we would have managed the FLA volunteer program last year, and we had 30% of our volunteers were under 18, and they were amazing. They were just phenomenal volunteers. But obviously that type of stuff's not happening at the moment. So this is an interesting one. This is a national role. Turn to Me is a support organisation for teenagers, but they're actually looking for community builders. So young people who would share Turn to Me's information amongst their own networks, whether it's their TikTok or their whatever things that I know nothing about that young people share information on. So that could be an interesting role, and it's a low commitment really. It's an hour a week, but could be really, really rewarding for the young person, where especially I know of people who've done it and they've been contacted by a friend who said, I didn't want to say anything to anybody, but when you shared that link, I contacted Turn to Me, and like that can be really powerful for a young person. And then this role, and I highlight this role just to kind of explain to you how roles come and go in our system all the time. So this role is actually not live yet. We're waiting for the organisation to approve the role. So we've been requested by the organisation to put up a role for a new youth club that's being established in Drogheda, and they're looking for an assistant. So currently there are 4 organisations, youth organisations in Drogheda running this club, and their staff are rotating. So they're looking for volunteers to support the staff in the delivery of the youth club. And that youth club was actually established specifically in response to the issues that have been highlighted in North Drogheda in terms of the feud that's happening there at the moment, and they wanted to provide a safe space for young people to come to and to feel comfortable coming to. So it's a lovely role. But I suppose to say to you, at the moment, myself and Karen, we have about 5 new roles that we're waiting for organisations to come back to us on. So our monthly email, which will go out on Monday, will highlight new roles that are currently available, but it's worth tipping in and out just to check every now and again to see if something new has come up. And I just mentioned there about our monthly email. We have a regular schedule of contacts that we make to volunteers. And so when a volunteer registers, we give you a call within 48 hours just to say thank you, hello. And it's to get that additional detail that I talked about earlier. So the other way I was saying, it helps us to know what you come to volunteering for, what you want to do as a volunteer. Our initial registration form doesn't capture a lot of details. So we'll ask you more information about your skills, your interests. And that's really what those calls are for, is to help us then to narrow down what volunteer roles might suit you. And we give you a call a couple of weeks after that to see if you had applied for a role, whether the organisation has come back to you 6 weeks after, the same situation. And a lot of that is, it's really just to support you. So it can happen that perhaps you've applied for a role and maybe that organisation has filled the role before you applied for it, and we can help you then maybe identify a different role. Or we could get, you know, feedback from you on how you're getting on. So just to say, sometimes people might think that we're ringing to check up. It's not that. We're ringing to support. And I have our 2 landline numbers there at the bottom. So if people wanted to save those phone numbers into the phone, we usually ring from either of those numbers. Occasionally we will ring from a couple of other numbers if our team are working from home, but generally it's those numbers. So if you see those numbers coming up, it's Louth Volunteer Centre. And I promise we're only ringing just to see how things are going and see if we can help. Our monthly email goes out on the last Monday of the month, so that's going to go out next Monday. Our drop-in service, so our offices are reopened on a slightly more limited basis than usual. So our Drogheda office, there is somebody there from 10 to 3 Monday to Friday, and our Dundalk office, there's somebody there from 10 to 3 Monday, Wednesday and Thursday. So we do actually have a drop-in service, but we would advise, the way things are at the moment, we would actually advise people to maybe pick up the phone and make an appointment just to make sure everything's okay. So both of our offices, we use screens, and you know, we manage things as carefully and safely as possible for people. Some of you will have received a text message about this event. We would have sent a lot of text messages in the past for fundraising and so on. Those messages are really just to highlight volunteer roles to you, and we put the link of the volunteer role into it. You can opt out of them very easily, but there's no problem whatsoever if, like, you just ignore them, and then one day the message comes in for something that you want to do. That's absolutely fine as well. I think that's me. As I said earlier, if you have any questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat, and Karen will moderate them, and we'll come to the questions at the end of the session. So I'm going to hand over now to Peter from Vincent's.
Hello everyone, how are you keeping? It's great to be here at the Expo, even if it is a bit weird. Let's be honest about it. Look, it's great to be able to speak here. I'm the regional retail manager for St Vincent de Paul, so I'm part of the North East and Midlands region, which has 36 shops. But we're talking about Louth here today. So this is the pictures you're seeing there is when we did a volunteer recruitment drive in Drogheda to try and get volunteers for our retail shops in Drogheda. So look, as already has been said, people really people volunteer for lots of different reasons. One of the most important reasons I find that people volunteer for is social interaction. And there's actually studies at the moment to show that medicine is moving in the way to include social interaction in 4 pillars. Everybody knows about diet and exercise, but not a lot of people realize that sleep is very important and social interaction is very important. And actual studies coming through that are showing that social interaction is actually as important as diet or exercise. So obviously getting out and making friends and being part of a team is very important, and we are very much about that in Vincent's, and we treat everybody with dignity and respect. And what we really try to do is, if you come in and become part of our retail team, we try and find out what you like to do, and then if it's maybe dress in the window or whatever it is, and then we try and support you on that. Also, it's a great place to gain work experience. And we have an awful lot of volunteers that have volunteered with us down through the years who have then moved on into either sales assistant roles or shop manager roles, and have moved on even further up the chain in St Vincent de Paul. We also would be able to provide you with something for your CV, or if you needed a reference, that wouldn't be a problem at all. We'd actually be able to help you with your CV. And we'll, you know, in general, everybody who tends to volunteer with us, they generally tend to have a really good feel factor about themselves. One of the things that's important to note as well is that, you know, 100% of the net income that's raised from our shops goes to help people that are struggling in the community. we are facing down the barrel here of a very, very severe recession in the next coming months and years. And our services back in the last recession were proved to be invaluable. And I've no doubt that's going to be the case. So we're going to need as many volunteers as we can. So if we could go on to the next slide, please. So we have we've 8 shops and 1 order fulfillment centre in our in Louth. So as you can see there, we have 4 shops in Drogheda, we have 3 shops in Dundalk, we have 1 in Dunleer, and we have what we call our order fulfillment centre, which is a large warehouse that we have in Drogheda as well, where we sort all of our clothes. So look, we are constantly looking for volunteers in those areas. There's a particular need at the moment for volunteers in Dunleer. So if anybody's on the call here today who lives in or near Dunleer, having said that, we still would be very, very much willing to engage with anybody in either our Drogheda, Dundalk shops and our warehouse. So next slide, please. Again, look, there's different volunteer roles. As I said earlier on, you know, sometimes we have one-off volunteers that come in through our TY students program, Erasmus programs, and students coming in. That's fine, and we will accommodate that. We have specific roles, as I said before. Sometimes we have volunteers that come in and they just do the window display. We have people who run events for us. Social media is massively important for us, and we have volunteers that all they do is just man our social media. So if anybody's got those skills in photography and filming, brilliant, and online selling. We've just recently recruited a new volunteer into our warehouse in Drogheda who is helping us with our Thriftify campaign, which is putting photographing items and putting them up online through Thriftify for sale. And we actually had Maura Higgins, who gave us a large donation of over 100 items of clothing that we're currently photographing and putting up for sale there. So yeah, so, and then we have some opportunities as well to volunteer from home, and they're really around craft, doing crafts at home, and then we sell those crafts through our retail outlets. So next slide, please. Again, we have Volunteer of the Season awards then. So every season we have award ceremonies where we reward our best volunteers around the region. We also then have a national conference every year. Unfortunately, we had to cancel the conference this year, and it was unfortunate because it was going to be the very first international Vincent's Retail conference up in Derry, and we had people coming from Australia, from America, our retail colleagues from around Europe, and it was going to be very exciting. And we do invite volunteers to attend that, and it's an overnight celebration, and then there's an evening part of it which is great crack altogether, and probably too much crack, but we have a great time at that. And then we have our regional volunteer awards, and we have a national volunteer awards as well. So we really do respect our volunteers and try to reward them where appropriate. So next slide, please. Again, look, we have volunteer opportunities for groups, we have schools, we have businesses coming in and volunteering with us on one-off basis. Next slide, please. And one of the things that we're really catching up in and we're trying to push is sustainable fashion. So an interesting statistic for you is that it takes 5,000 litres of water to put one pair of brand new pair of jeans on a shop floor in a retail outlet. So obviously we're not in that game. We're in the game of sustainable fashion, recycling, reuse. It's really, really good for the environment. So what we're doing is not only making income for people in need, we're also providing a service for disadvantaged people who can't afford to buy brand new goods, but we're also providing an opportunity for people to get involved in sustainable fashion and to help the environment. So next slide, please. We run National Volunteer Campaign, and it's National Volunteer Week this week, hooray, and all that. And look, we really are pushing to try and get volunteers into our shops. Again, we have suffered a massive loss in income into our shops. We've been closed for 3 months. And it's our model where we have one paid shop manager per shop, and then normally we have between 30 and 40 volunteers in each shop to help us run our shop. So we really need to get as many volunteers in as possible. So next slide, please. So look, yeah, we're looking to get people involved in crafts, as we said earlier on, working from home. And if anybody's interested in that, we can talk about that after. And the next slide, please. I think we're nearly finishing up here. Again, a bit of excitement. You know, we really empower our volunteers. We want our volunteers to get excited about coming into work. And really, we try and have a lot of crack. We try and have an awful lot of fun. And we actually make our volunteers responsible for putting on events in our shops. We have customer care events. Sometimes we have them in the evening where we might get somebody in to a local band or a local musician and a bit of music and some light refreshments. We may even, if it's around Christmas, we might even have a glass of wine. And we just try and have as much fun as we can. So I would say, look, Vincent's retail shops are a great place to volunteer if you're interested in meeting new people, if you're interested in being a part of a team, if you're interested in giving back to the community, if you're interested in retail, and if you're interested in shops and selling. It's a great place to learn new skills, meet new people. Thanks so much for that, and I hope there's questions at the end that I can answer, and thanks again for everybody's attention.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Peter. It being National Volunteering Week and well-being being the message of the week, it was great to hear you saying there about social interaction and being as important as diet or exercise. We would find that as well. That is probably the #1 thing that people get from volunteering, is connection to others. So I'm going to hand over now to Paul, who's the chair of Louth Society of Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, Louth SPCA.
Good morning, everyone. Yes. We're a society that looks after the less well off, i.e. the animals of our county. We're the only organisation in Louth that has a qualified inspector, a cruelty inspector, to go out and investigate. We work out of our kennels in Walterstown in Castle Bellingham. We were founded in 1920. This being our centenary year, we have been hit like every other organisation. We can't put on a celebration. We are trying to come up with new ways to fundraise. All our normal fundraising ideas have gone out the window because most of our fundraising would be done with feet on the street. We do take in every kind of animal, and we do look after, as I said to someone, from a guinea pig to a horse, we will look after them. We take them in, we restore their health, we send them back to new homes. We never ever return an animal where cruelty has been established to be given by the person who we took the animal off. Our biggest case we ever dealt with was in recent years, where we rehomed 600 animals of all kind from one facility. We worked with other charities, and we were very, very lucky. We worked with Exotic Ireland, who took the vast majority of the animals. These animals came from what was alleged to be a petting zoo beside a well-known restaurant in Louth. We work hard, we play hard, we like volunteers to come. We have, unfortunately, a high turnover of volunteers because our work is emotionally draining at times. It can be physically draining. We could be out covering fields looking for a dog that's escaped or a horse that's in need. We have just like every other organisation, we have ups and downs. You could come to work with us today in the best of form and go home in tears, or you could come in the worst of form and go home full of laughter. I mentioned one particular volunteer we have at the moment who arrived a year ago on a walking stick, hardly able to move. Got it very hard to get out of the car to come in. She is above, and to this, at the moment, she's above filling a skip at the kennels. She has got new life out of being around the animals, and it benefited her health as much as it did the animals. She's now our resident gardener. She'll hate me for saying that, so I won't mention her name. But we work hard, we play hard. We have, as I say, ups and downs. We advise anyone who is interested in coming to us, never wear your Sunday best out to us, because you will go home covered in muck and dirt. We ask people to come out to us and give a minimum of a half a day at a time, but prefer if people can do a day at a time. In the kennels, we have only we have two at the moment employed. We have a kennel manager who has come to us, and she initially came to us through TUS, and her job was that good, we kept her on to run the kennels on a part-time basis. So we employ her now on the same hours that she was getting from TUS. We had, up until recently, another girl doing the other half of the week, for the want of a better word, but she now has gone to college. We totally need volunteers through the winter. Summertime is great. There's plenty of people off work, plenty of people off school, and we never seem to get short of candidates. As the slide shows you there, we need volunteers who are not afraid to get their hands or their clothes dirty. You come in, you get to clean kennels. First job in the morning you do actually is you let the dogs out in their runs. You clean their kennels, you feed the dogs, you move on to the cattery. Again, you clean them out, you let them out. We have an outdoor run, you let them out, clean them out, and you feed them. Any bedding that has been soiled or needs cleaning is taken out to be washed and replaced with fresh. We then go in and have a cup of tea. Very important part of the job is have the cup of tea. Any dogs that needs walking are walked. Any cats or kittens that needs special attention gets it done there and then. Someone will dedicate their time to go in and sit with a troubled cat or a kittens that need socializing. We get a lot of kittens that are born in the wild, and unfortunately, if a kitten is not handled within the first 5 days of being born, it will have fear of human. So we have a barrier to come over with most kittens that come to us, but we get through it. We have general maintenance and odd jobs which are that are constant, as in any facilities. We have breakdowns. We have washing machines. I think we go through an average of 3 washing machines a year, because all our clothes, all our beds are heavy and the machines just cannot take them. We can't afford to put in an industrial machine because of the expense involved. So we always have people needed. We have fundraisers. If people are not for people who are not available or not able to work with animals or find it too distracting, we constantly, like any charity, we need fundraisers. Our actual expense on average every year is 65,000 without any unexpected maintenance work to be done. Of that 65,000, we get a grant from the government, from the Department of Agriculture, of 23,000. which leaves a big hole of nearly 40,000 minimum to be raised. Last year we were lucky and we had come up ahead of schedule and we had money in reserve, which was a blessing, because as we went into this year, we were absolutely shattered. We've had 2 fundraisers the whole year, bringing in between them 4,000. We do get donations from people who adopt a dog, a cat, a guinea pig, a horse, whatever. We have had goats this year. As I said, we've had guinea pigs. We tend to work with Holly's Horse Haven when it comes to the horses, because they are better suited for looking after horses. So when it comes to fundraising, we need people who can come up with new ideas. We have a committee of about 12 people, but at this stage, most of us have been around for 5, 6, 10 years, 15 years, whatever, so we run out of ideas. Our committee members, this year now especially, we have lost through ill health or other reasons. I think it's 5 committee members leaving our role, our committee very, very stretched. And like every other organisation, we've not been able to hold our AGM this year, which we hope to do next week, barring Louth doesn't go into phase 3. We are particularly in need of a treasurer. We did have a beautiful girl who came to us through Louth Volunteer. She was a Polish lady, but she has gained employment herself and just finds that her work is just putting too much pressure on her. But she had revolutionised our way of looking at money, so it was a pity to lose her. We, as a society, that we do need committee members. So if you think you could sit on a committee and help us, well and good. Tradespeople, as I say, referred to earlier, electricians, plumbers, carpenters, builders, you name it.
Sorry, Paul, you went on to mute there for a second.
I'm trying to unmute him and I can't.
I think we're at the end, near enough.
Yeah, we're there. How's that now? We're back, yeah.
Yeah, you're back, yeah.
We're intending to build a brand new cattery this year. Again, if it can be done voluntary, we would save an awful lot of money. If we've only to supply the material, we would do well. For that, we will need builders, we will need electricians, plumbers and carpenters. Every one of them is up there. So again, as I say, we just constantly need volunteers. It is hard work. You can come in full of joy and go home in tears when you see some of the animals that have been brought into us from one reason or another. And as I say, you can come in the worst of form and go home. I refer to one man now that is not with us, but he runs a rescue for St. Bernard's only. And the man was involved many years ago in a very severe road accident. His painkiller now is when he gets pain, he goes out into the big room with his dogs, turns a bucket upside down, and the dogs gather around him. The man has not taken a painkiller in the last 7 years. The dogs draw the pain out of him. So there is great benefit of working with animals all the time. Your work would be appreciated. And please, if you can spare us time, we will have a job for you. Thank you very much.
That's great, Paul. Thank you so much. I'd just like to say to all the participants, we actually didn't prompt any of the organisations to talk about the well-being aspects of volunteering, but it's naturally coming up because that is what volunteering is about. It's very interesting there to the health benefits that you talked about there, Paul, the difference that the engagement with the animals and what you can get out of that as well. So I'm going to hand over now to Carol West from SOSAD and to talk through her organisation and the volunteer roles that they're looking for people for at the moment. I don't know if we can hear you there, Carol. I think you might be on mute there. Yeah.
I actually think it would be better if I unmuted myself totally, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Technology and me, I'm afraid are not very great friends. Anyway, good morning and thank you to Paul and Peter for your contributions. It was very interesting to hear what other organisations are doing around the area. As I said, I'm the General Manager of SOSAD Ireland and we've been working in Drogheda since 2007. We started in Drogheda and now have expanded to Dundalk, Navan, Kells, Cavan and Carrickmacross. So we're quite a busy organisation. We are very lucky. Our organisation is only in existence because of all of the people who volunteer for us. All of our staff, apart from the coordinators in each office, are volunteers. So the councillors are volunteers, all the admin staff, the fundraisers, everybody is volunteers. We don't get any government or state funding. So everything that we raise, you know, we have to raise enough money every year to keep all our doors open. We've been very fortunate in that people are very supportive of SOSAD Ireland, and it costs around 400,000 a year to keep all of the offices and all of the services in place. But we wouldn't be able to do that without everybody's contribution, and particularly all our volunteers. So SOSAD Ireland, for those of you who don't know, we're an organisation that was set up after our founder, Peter Moroney's son, had committed suicide in the early 2000s. And he discovered there was no support or no information available for families of people who had committed suicide. And also there was no support at that time for people who had thoughts about committing suicide or who self-harmed. So that was his idea of setting it up and calling it sort of SOSAD. It's Save Our Sons and Daughters. So it's looking at the young people and people coming up and people who need that extra bit of support to get through life. So the organisation, as I said, has grown and developed since then. And we also, our tagline, if you like, if you want to use the current phrase, is, you know, it's suicide prevention through early intervention. So we have broadened our services to include people who are suffering from depression, people who are self-harming, people who are bereaved by suicide, people who have anxieties or worries that stop them from living a normal life. We offer professional counselling services, and everybody is usually seen within about 2 weeks of asking for help. If it's an emergency, we can get somebody into a session with a counsellor within an hour or so. So we've been very lucky in that, because all of our counsellors are also volunteers, but they're all professionally trained, they're all accredited, and we do offer a facility for people to fulfill part of their training with us. So all of the roles in SOSAD that are volunteers, it's basically, it's all of the stuff, all of the work, the admin work, the financial work, you know, the support work. So I can run through each role with you, but I'm just trying to give you a sense of the organisation. I know it's very hard and it's very difficult when you think of suicide and you think of people with depression. So if we can sort of go back to our vision.
Sorry.
Okay. So what we want to achieve through with SOSAD is we want every community, this is very aspirational, I know, to develop their own sense of security through a positive mental well-being, and suicide prevention through early intervention. So we want people in every community to be able to have a very healthy mental health and to be well in themselves and to have access to the services for when things don't go right for them, so that they can get the help and the support they needed. And it's not always about medication. It's a lot of the time, it's just about being able to talk to somebody and being able to sort of clear away some of the clutter that's in your mind so that you can find solutions to whatever is your problem. If you want to go on to the next slide, please. So we're looking at, our mission is we want to provide support and care through life's challenges through a person-centered professional approach. That sounds, again, it's just what we want to do is to be able to provide a service that helps people through life's challenges. And if you look at the moment, we have the whole COVID scenario going on for the past 6 months and the uncertainty that goes along with that. And, you know, things like life challenges can be as simple as somebody suffering acute anxiety in the very fact that the whole environment is starting to open up again, and then they get anxious about going back out into the world. So if you've been cocooning for 3, 4, 5 months and not been interacting with people and not having that social contact, well then you're going to feel worried and scared about going back out into the world. So, you know, we can help people to overcome that and to sort of work through that anxiety. So we go from that anxiety up to people who maybe have lost jobs, are in situations that they never dreamt they would find themselves in, that they, you know, they just need somebody to help them and to guide them and to support them through this very difficult period in their life. And then we go right up to somebody who just feels that life is not worth living anymore and who doesn't want to carry on. If you want to go on to the next slide, please. So our volunteers are absolutely invaluable. I cannot say this enough. They're invaluable to us. They are the people that keep the service open and keep it running. So they are the ones that literally are helping people to help themselves, to brighten up their lives, to overcome the difficulties that they're experiencing at the moment. We also acknowledge that it's very difficult for people to ask for help. There is still, even though we all talk about mental health and we're all talking about well-being, there still is that feeling out there that there is a stigma attached to it. And people have great difficulty dealing with this. You know, people are, I don't know whether they're scared, they're frightened, or they're worried that what other people will think about them if they say, look, I'm really frightened to leave my house because I'm worried about COVID, or I'm really frightened or scared or concerned or distressed. I've lost my job. I don't know what's going to happen now. I don't know how I'm going to live. How am I going to survive? What am I going to do? I mean, they're all things that we've all probably experienced in all our life, but it's very difficult for people to actually put their hand up and say, I need help here. And what we want to do is encourage that an environment where people feel free to say, I am struggling here and I need help. And, you know, without the public who donate to us, without people who run fundraisers on our behalf, we are so fortunate that so many people feel strongly enough about what we do that they will go out and raise funds on our behalf. And particularly, we have really discovered how well supported we are in this period when, as Paul had said, you know, fundraising literally fell off a cliff. You know, we closed the doors, we closed our offices on the 12th of March, and we just quite frankly, we were in a good position financially, which was unusual for us. So, but we were like, what are we going to do now? You know, how are we going to survive? How are we going to still work and provide our services? We moved everything online. We provided all our services online. We have a 24-hour helpline as well, which we continue to use. And we then reopened all our offices in July. And we're going with the motto of precaution and not restriction. So we're taking all the necessary precautions that we can possibly take to be able to continue to provide our face-to-face services. And thankfully, all of our volunteers have come back into doing the face-to-face work as well. And we can accommodate people who would like to work from home. So, you know, we're trying to make sure that we can be as inclusive and supportive of people as we possibly can. If you want to go on to the next slide, please. Actually, the following one after that. Grant. So as you can see, these are the things that I have talked about. So we provide a counselling service, we provide crisis support service, and we have the 24-hour helpline. And in one of our services in Cavan, we have a drop-in centre. So luckily, the premises in Cavan is big enough that we have a separate area for people who have problems, but who don't necessarily want to go the formal route of looking for a counselling session or anything like that. So they can just drop in and chat to somebody. There's always somebody else in there. You know, people chat among themselves. It's a bit like, you know, meeting your neighbour for a chat and discovering your neighbours and they're having similar problems to you and working out how you can sort them out with a little bit of help from somebody else that's needed. It's also been very useful in the COVID era for people to be able to call in. Now, at the moment, it's by appointment because we're limited to the number of people we can have in the area. So, you know, but it is a place for you to call in and to get advice and information and support. Crisis support, as I said, is literally just if anybody is in crisis at that minute in time, need support, need help, we can provide it. You know, sometimes somebody is in a crisis and they come and speak to one of the counsellors, and like after maybe an hour or an hour and a half session, they're fine because they've worked out how they're going to deal with that particular crisis, because it's just the panic sets in when you don't know what's happening or what's going on or what's on around you, and you don't know where to go for advice and information, and that can just lead to all sorts of thoughts and thinking, you know. And then we also provide ongoing counselling services for people that need a lot more support. Now, we don't necessarily deal with alcohol or drug dependency issues. we deal with depression. And I'm sure you mostly all know that alcohol, drugs and drug dependency goes along with depression. So, but the alcohol and drug dependency would be the primary addiction. So we would refer people on for help for somewhere else for that. We deal with literally the mental health stuff. So if you want to move on, I think I've sort of covered most of this. The volunteer with us is, we are always looking for volunteers, always looking for all volunteers. And we are a good organisation to volunteer in. And it's not all doom and gloom. Okay, the topics that we deal with are big topics and they're big issues for people. But we want people, when they come into us, to feel comfortable, to feel that they can talk to us, and to feel that this is just a normal part of life. We're not dealing with anybody who's strange or difficult or, you know, weird or anything like that. It's just people who need a little bit of help. So, you know, by volunteering with us, you are contributing to your community and helping others. You are necessarily saying to them, come on in, we can help you. That helps in your own professional growth and development, no matter what type of work you want to go into in the future. You know, being able to deal with the public or somebody in distress is an absolutely brilliant talent to have. And then doing all of the background work, the admin, answering the phones, you know, whatever work that you, practical work that you're doing on a regular basis, look, it's all going to contribute to your well-being as well, to your health, and you know, to whatever you want to do. We have a lot of older people who volunteer with us, and you know, they bring all their skills and talents with them, and we just love that. We have younger people that volunteer who benefit from all those skills and talents. You know, it's like you learn when you come to volunteer with us. You learn the skills that you need, you learn how to deal with people, you benefit from other people's experiences. And as I said, we absolutely, you're invaluable to us. People who volunteer with us are absolutely invaluable. I couldn't even tell you how much we appreciate you all. Sorry, if you want to go into the, I think that's probably it, is it? Yeah, so we have the various different roles, and yeah, Karen will be sending you all the link. And just to remember that even though the roles are saying requirements, it was just an error in our slide. It's not, we will provide training. So the Safe Talk and the Assist training and things like that, we will provide training. But if I give you a sort of very brief overview, the admin role is basically you're the person, the meter and the greeter. You're the record keeper. You answer the telephone. Now, it's not a crisis line or anything like that. You just answer the normal business telephone line. So, and there's always support around. We have, you know, counsellors. If you've had a difficult call and you're worried, we can get you a counsellor. We have mentors. You know, we have people will help you through. But as I said, it's not all doom and gloom. We actually are quite a nice, bright organisation who deal with it with troubled people. So the support workers, basically a support worker is the initial contact that somebody would have with a counsellor or a worker in the organisation. So you would come to meet the support worker, who will take sort of a history or some information that we need about you, so that we can give you the right help. So that it helps us to decide which counsellor is going to be best for you, what type of counselling is going to be best for the person who needs the help. So, and that's that role. And as I said, we will give all of the training required in that. But really for that role, we need people who are empathic, who are non-judgmental, who will be willing to listen to somebody's story, you know, and take the information from that without offering anything back. Really, it's just an information gathering exercise, so that we can then refer them on to the help that they needed. The other role then we have are for fundraise or suicide intervention officer. This is the one where, you know, you would be talking to somebody in crisis at this stage, and you would have had the necessary training, and you know, we would have given you the experience to do that before we let you off on your own to do it. And this is for our helpline. It's 24 hours, and we ask people to like do one night a week. So it starts on I think it starts from 6 o'clock in the evening through to about 8 o'clock in the morning, just to answer the calls, to listen to people when they ring up. There are all sorts of supports in place for the person who does the suicide intervention officer role. We have a counsellor on standby, you will have a mentor. You're not going to be stranded at 2 o'clock in the morning with somebody on the phone who's absolutely in crisis and you won't know what to do. There will always be help available to you. Do you want to go on to the next slide? Fundraising, you know, as Peter and Paul have both said, fundraising is actually what keeps us going, what makes keeps our doors open and the phone lines ringing. We're always happy to hear from people who want to come involved in fundraising that we do inside, or to do a fundraiser on our behalf. We have some really exciting stuff coming up next year for fundraising. So if anybody is interested at all, the contact information, and just to know then that your fundraising goes to directly keeping the services going. Next slide, please. We also have what we're calling micro-volunteering, where really this is just, you know, if you're available, but you don't want to be always available or always involved in the organisation. So say, for example, we were doing a bag pack when it all comes back to normal, hopefully in Dunn's or Tesco's locally, that you could come and give us a couple of hours and help people pack their shopping, you know, so that we can get a donation from that. Or we recently had some lovely events around the country for World Suicide Prevention Day, and you know, we got some people came and volunteered from Louth Volunteers on the day in both Dundalk and Drogheda, and the people who came to the Drogheda, because I happened to be at that one, were just super. We had a great day. It was really enlightening, and it was such a lovely day for people to be involved in. We were in the Augustinian Memorial Garden, and we were painting stones so people could place a memorial for people who'd passed away. You know, so it was a really nice day. So if you just have a couple of hours occasionally, if you want to pass on your information to us, we'd be very grateful through the Louth Volunteers for you to be involved in anything we have planned in the future. I think that's basically all I have to say. I hope I haven't given you too much information and made you scared, but you know, we are always available if you want to contact the Louth Volunteers and then speak to us through that, and then we can see where you would like to fit in. Thank you very much this morning for your time.
Thanks, Carol. I'm going to go straight ahead and invite Carol from the Boyne Fishermen's. That's okay, Carol. I'm just conscious of our time. So,
sorry, yes.
Yeah, I'll just go straight into it. That's okay with you, Carol. No lead in or anything. Straight in there.
That's fine. That's fine. Okay. So I'll have the next slide. That's just the introduction. Yes, I just wanted to just say briefly. Most people know who the Boyne Fishermen's Rescue and Recovery is. We're based in the Marsh Road in Drogheda. We've got a fantastic boathouse down there, one of the largest in Europe, that helps us actually deal with our situations. We're a 24-hour, 365-day-a-year emergency rescue service. We are involved in rescues on the river. We travel to the 32 counties in Ireland very often for recovery, sadly for body recovery. Our members are trained in boat handling. We're first aid trained. Most of us are CFR first responders. We have paramedics in our organisation as well, and we constantly are doing courses to keep us up to date with what is the necessary things. But we're all boat handlers. I myself am a coxswain, so I'm trained in boat handling, radio operation, navigation. I'm not so good on navigation, but we have teams that are involved in all of this. And of course, we're also taught on our own self-rescue, because the most important thing is when you're rescuing someone that we need to be safe. So we need to know how to rescue ourselves. So we put ourselves first, and then the person who we're rescuing. There's no point us being in trouble trying to rescue someone who's also in trouble. So if I can have the next slide, please. And we do river rescue along the Boyne River. This year we've had over 40 emergency call outs on the river, just nighttime call outs, people sadly going in the river. So we're called out constantly for people. We do surface water rescue on the river. We do suicide watch. We've been involved with putting the teddy bears up on the bridges. We're very much involved in mental health care as well for people. We do suicide watch as well. We have flood rescue. Very often when we get the rain, especially down by the bus station, that gets flooded, the manholes come up, we get all kinds of problems. But our teams are trained in flood rescue. We're trained, as I said, in emergency first aid. We cover events where there's water-based. We would have been involved in the Clawhead boat race. We would be the marshalling on the boat race out in the sea. There should have been a swim last weekend, but that was sadly cancelled because of the weather. But we would have boats out to protect people who maybe get into difficulties while they're doing their swimming. So we are very much involved, and we do have a very large underwater search team. So if sadly someone has taken their own life and the families really need, obviously, to have their loved one returned, we have search teams, we have divers, we have crew that know how to search for lost loved ones, because that's the most important thing, is getting that person back to their family. Can I have the next slide, please, as well? Our boathouse is fully equipped. We have 7 fully inflatable boats always on call. 2 ribs, they're called a rib because they have an underneath boat section. We have a large 7-meter rib that is ocean. We can go out onto the sea with it. We also have small tenders that we would use along the Boyne River to go into the reeds and to look for people that have got lost. We do spend a lot of time searching as well as rescuing. Sometimes we're out searching for someone who's been it's been phoned in that this person's gone missing. We go out to search for them. We had a young lad the other evening. He had rung into the guards to say he was going to jump off the bridge. And so we were there immediately. Within 8 minutes, we had a boat launched. We had crew out along the rampart searching for this lad. And happily, we managed to find him with the aid of the guards and things like that. But we have a pager crew. There's 20 of us on pager crew, and we're on 24/7. Unless we have to take ourselves off page, we are constantly on call, so we can be called anytime, night and day. Most of us are available. If we're working, obviously we take ourselves off page, but there's always a crew of about 20 that can be called on for immediate access to get to the boat. So can I have the next one? So when we ask people to volunteer, we like to get people to volunteer. There's when you come, you're not immediately thrown in the deep end, literally into the sea or the river. We have training, and we have training every week. It's a constant thing every week. It can be boat handling, it can be first aid, it can be swimming in the river, we can be doing rescues, navigation, radio control, so even searching just in the grounds. I don't know if people know our area down on the Marsh Road. We have big grounds and we have fields that we can use either side. So we will send people out searching, and we'll do it at night because most of our rescues and searches take place at night. But our training is usually on a Wednesday evening from about 7 to 9. And we like to get people down to to try to see how they get on. We do have Garda vetting, obviously, because we're involved with people and children. So we have Garda vetting, we have our identification is checked, we have informal interviews. It's not like a big heavy duty sort of interview. We like to get people to see how they feel, come down and meet the crew, meet the people that are down there. And it's nice to see that we're normal people. We have our daily lives. I'm a grandmother here in Ireland. I'm a grandmother in England too, but my daughter, I don't stop being a grandmother because I'm not in England. But I'm a grandmother. I'm also a diver, although I'm not involved so much in the diving here because it's a very complex, and I don't have the strength to do the underwater searching and diving that they do here, but I'm able to check equipment to make sure that our tanks are fully serviced, that the compressor is working properly. So everybody who's got different skills can be used. So can I get you to go to the next page? Yes, so as I said, we're water-based. And if people want to volunteer, it's good if they've got some experience with water or swimming, not being afraid to go in the water, not being afraid to get on the boats, because obviously if somebody is nervous of swimming and nervous in water, they then become a liability themselves. If they fall off the boat, we've got to rescue them before we rescue someone else. So we do encourage people to get a swimming qualification if they can. It only has to be that they're comfortable in water. We've got quite a few lads at the moment doing their PADI open water course, which means then they can go on to advanced open water and rescue diver, and then they can be involved with our team of rescuers, because that is quite a big thing, is the underwater search. People would like to join our organisation, as I said, if they're not always happy with being with water. We've always got the fundraising. I think we've all made this comment this morning, that fundraising is the biggest thing that we have to deal with. We're not government backed either. All our fundraising is by voluntary donations. We used to do a lotto on the Friday evening, could go around the local pubs, and people were very generous. People knew who we were, but that's all stopped, obviously, because of the pubs aren't open. We've not been able to do our normal street collecting, though hopefully later on next month we're able to do we do a door-to-door collection, so it will be a very limited door-to-door collection, but we'd like to cover the whole of Drogheda, and we would love people to come and help us with that. That's quite a difficult thing. Every night for 4 weeks we do collecting door-to-door. Also, I made the comment that we do have large gardens in where the boathouse is, and we have somebody who takes care of it, but they would be glad of any help like that. And also maintenance, just to help us with cleaning. We have, I don't know if they've put up a shot of the inside of the boathouse, but we're constantly keeping our equipment clean. We have to make sure our boats are clean and ready to go, ready when they come back from a call, they're restaged, ready to go. So maintenance, cleaning, just looking after generally the boathouse, because a lot of people do come down when they've lost someone that they love. They like to come down and see where the person has been recovered. We have a nice little memorial area where people can sit and meditate and think about things, and there's always a welcome cup of tea. There's always someone there to make them a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. I don't know if there's another shot there. I was just giving you our phone numbers and our information there. But we would always be glad to have people come and join us. They can contact us through our website, our Instagram page, our Facebook page, or through the Louth Volunteers. And we've had some lovely volunteers who've come and helped us from Louth Volunteers. So thank you very much for your time, and hope to be able to see some of you soon.
Thanks a million for that, Carol. I liked the way you said that we're normal people. Volunteers are normal people. And what I've taken actually from all of you is the welcome that you provide to volunteers. You've all actually mentioned that, that you welcome volunteers, and it's very much for every person who's spoken, you can hear that there is a social interaction element to volunteering, coming right back to where Peter was saying how important that was. And so I'm just going to quickly share the results, because I know there's at least one attendee here who's dying to see what people prefer in terms of Coke or Pepsi. But I'll just quickly share the results from our poll earlier on, and so you can have a look at it there. And Karen has been moderating the questions there. I'll just move on to the next screen actually. If you would like to ask a question at this point, I don't think any questions have come in yet, but if you would like to ask a question, maybe just throw your name into the chat box and who you would like to ask the question of. Or you can ask your full question in the chat box either. The links have been going up into the chat box for the roles that everybody who's been chatting to, but as I said earlier, we will actually be sending an email with all those links as well. So Karen, I'll